at boilingfrogspost.com coming out to you, and to keep specifically this eye-opener report and the Boiling Frogs Post roundtable videos free and open to the public. So far, we've managed to raise $4,500 through boilingfrogspost.com for this effort, and that is not even halfway to the goal, and we're about halfway through the fundraising drive, so unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to make it. If you want to make that happen, again, you can support us at boilingfrogspost.com. And your donations and your subscriptions there are much appreciated, and they do help to fund this media. And just to clarify, CorbettReport.com is my own website. It's a completely different website. Of course, I need your donations and subscriptions there, but that is completely separate from the Boiling Frogs Post website. So your subscriptions and donations to the boilingfrogspost.com fundraiser are important, and you can keep tabs of the thermometer there on boilingfrogspost.com to see how close we are to the goal each day. And I guess by next week, we'll know one way or another whether or not these eye-opening reports will continue free and open to the public. So to everyone who has donated or subscribed so far in this fundraising drive, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. And now, thank you for your time and attention. Let's get on to today's eye-opening report. You would have to have been living under a rock to have missed the rollout of so-called smart technologies in recent years. But for those unfortunate rock dwellers who have somehow avoided the smart propaganda, there is no shortage of flashy, cartoonish PR puff pieces that are willing to sell it to you.
In this edition of Digital Futures, we're really revved up about the smart home of the future. Now, this isn't some Minority Report style novelty, rather it's already a reality. And we can soon expect to see between 15 and 30 intelligent connected devices and sensors in an ordinary household. And what's really fascinating here is that in the near future, we can expect to see a truly integrated smart home with connectivity across devices.
Although these bubbly, feel-good, lowest common denominator commercials leave the viewer with the warm fuzzies, they do little to explain what this so-called smart technology actually is. Stripped of all the hype and sweaty-palmed hyperbole of the massive PR campaign surrounding it, the only thing that smart really means is that a given piece of technology can be linked up to a network to send and receive information. The real question, of course, is why we supposedly need every gadget and appliance in our home, from our toaster to our thermostat, to be networked at all. Like all such questions, there are two answers: the cover story and the true story. The cover story is that networking these technologies will allow us to reduce the amount of power that we consume and, as an added bonus, save us money on our monthly power bill.
As sensors become cheaper and cheaper, and technologies like the internet and wireless communication become widespread, utilities are adding more and more sophisticated sensors to the grid. And this means one thing: more information. This flood of data will be quickly parsed to locate power failures, reroute electricity, or avoid overheating power lines. That means utility companies can stop relying on grandma to let them know the power's out. It also means they can better deal with power line failures like the one that blacked out the northeastern US in 2003. Within the next decade, sensors are likely to be everywhere. One type, commonly known as a smart meter, will do to homeowners what the utilities have long done to factories. Two-way communication will give both utilities and customers better information about who's using what and when. It could even let utilities do things like temporarily turn off a smart appliance in your home to help avert a blackout.
What's more, the linking of all of these appliances into one seamless personal network, the cover story assures us, will finally allow for the Jetsons-like future that has been promised us for decades.
You can even set the mood for yourself, so if you're longing for a romantic evening with your loved one, a nice bottle of wine, well, all you do is you simply press the touchscreen button on the smartboard and your favourite music will play, the lights will go down, and then it's just time to sit back and relax. If you were to notice that you're running out of wine, you can, for instance, add red wine to your grocery list on the smartboard. The smartboard helps you with your everyday chores. It's there to make life easier.
Those with properly functioning bull excrement detectors might question whether the embedding of RFIDs and processors in our fridges and coffee makers and egg timers is really all about saving a few watts of electricity or the hassle of pressing a few buttons. This is where the true story of smart technology comes in. Smart technology represents less of a breakthrough in power distribution and more of a revolution in complete, constant, panopticon-like surveillance of everyone. As these smart technologies begin to invade our homes, we are becoming mere nodes in a giant network that we yet but dimly comprehend. Called the Internet of Things, the plan is to create a network that will eventually include every single object on the planet. And as the public is finally becoming aware, such networks provide golden opportunities for corporations and governments alike to collect data and spy on the population. This is not mere conjecture. Before becoming enmeshed in an affair that ultimately derailed his career, former CIA Director David Petraeus bragged openly about how these smart technologies would allow intelligence agencies to spy on everyone in their own homes using their own appliances. Speaking at a summit for In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm, Petraeus noted, "Items of interest will be located, identified, monitored, and remotely controlled through technologies such as radio frequency identification, sensor networks, tiny embedded servers, and energy harvesters." In practice, these technologies could lead to rapid integration of data from closed societies and provide near-continuous, persistent monitoring of virtually anywhere we choose. Whether Petraeus' own downfall as a result of FBI eavesdropping on private emails is part of a plan to warn future would-be whistleblowers, poetic justice, or mere irony, it is nonetheless instructive. When everything that anyone does is tracked, traced, and databased at all times, from our dishwasher usage to our television viewing to our toilet flushes, no one will be able to avoid the gaze of the state, regardless of whether or not they have something to hide. As IT World's Kevin Fogarty observed, if J. Edgar Hoover were alive, he would die of jealousy at the technologies available to the would-be big brothers of today. As nightmarish as this seems, the possibilities for tyrannical misappropriation of this technology are even worse. Given that networked appliances allow for remote access, smart technology actually raises the specter that governments and corporations will be able to control the items in your own home. Here again, as much as this sounds like Buck Rogers' fantasy or Orwellian nightmare, it is in fact mundane reality. As far back as 2008, California lawmakers were already tabling legislation that would mandate the installation of smart technologies and allow government bodies to automatically adjust homeowners' thermostats up or down to conserve energy at peak usage times. The stark truth is that any appliance can be turned on or off, adjusted, or otherwise manipulated by anyone with access to the network remotely, including your own car.
The slide that's been omitted showed a result of the researchers at UCSD and the University of Washington hacking into the dashboard display of a typical American sedan, making it show that the car was going 140 miles an hour while in park.
Most worrying of all, whether or not we want to use these technologies, the average person is being left with little choice. More and more of the appliances and household goods we use have these technologies embedded by default, and now, thanks to the so-called smart meters that are increasingly being installed in people's homes without their knowledge or consent, that choice is being removed entirely.
I was hearing this banging on the basement door, which is the door that leads into the hydrometers that are in here. And so I leave my bed and I come down here and I sit right here on the step and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna film this.
Sorry. I'm just putting in your meters. Your power's gonna be up for about 20, well, when I find the meters. They're down here, right?
I'll show you the door. I'd heard her banging, but I didn't know that she actually kicked the door in until she left. Because when she left, I came here and I found this on the ground. I was like, wow, she actually kicked the door in. We've since repaired the door. We've put these do not install a smart meter sign on our door.
Thankfully, the situation is not hopeless. As Josh Del Sol, the filmmaker behind Take Your Power, notes, there are specific steps that people can take to stop smart meters being installed in their homes, and that communities can take to stop them being installed at all.
The first thing that people need to know and need to do is to write your utility a letter saying you don't want a smart meter. You will not accept an advanced meter or upgrade, whatever they're calling it. You don't want it. Okay, there's templates on our site, takebackyourpower.net. Click the Take Action button, and there's links and templates and a bunch of information there that can walk you through the process. So you don't need to connect all the dots in order to say no or in order to demand that that meter be removed from your home. So you have those rights. So in the greater picture, since 2010, there's been hundreds of local governments who have issued a moratorium against the installation of these meters. Now, in some cases, those local governments have not been able to enforce or have not had the political will, you could say, to enforce their moratorium, their request for moratorium. So utilities such as in California, PG&E, are just attempting to steamroll the installation of smart meters. But also in other cases, city councils such as Fairfax and Sebastopol, California, have actually made it illegal for a utility to install a smart or advanced or upgraded meter. So they criminalized the installation of these meters by attaching a $500 fine in the case of Sebastopol to every meter that the utility attempts to install. Now, that's creating kind of the standoff situation. So that wouldn't happen if people just kindly wrote request letters or applied or please, I ask you, I apply to your sense of decency, I don't want to have a smart. No, we need to start increasing the level of force in our process and say, you know what, you are criminals. What you're doing is against constitutional law. It's against common law. It's against anything, moral and ethics based. And you will be held accountable as corporations, but more importantly, as individuals at the heads of these corporations, on the boards of these corporations, in government, who have the ability to say no to this agenda. But so far you haven't. Okay, so here's the information. And you now have the ability to say no. And there's going to be all these people in your constituent base that are going to have access to this documentation, which makes you, it asserts the fact that you're financially liable, and they will be able to sue you. And hopefully we don't have to do this with too many public officials before everyone gets it.
Make no mistake, the fight against smart technologies is going to be an uphill one. For a population that understands little outside of the realm of bread and circus entertainment, explaining why anything with the word smart in front of it may be a bad thing will be challenging enough.